Russia can afford to fund the war in Ukraine for several more years, supported by massive oil revenues and the shortcomings of Western sanctions, according to the Washington Post. Instead of cratering, as had been widely predicted with the Western sanctions regime after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the Russian economy is running hot and in danger of overheating. Massive military spending, including high payments to soldiers, has fueled economic growth, as well as high wages and inflation, as companies are forced to match military salaries to attract workers. Russia can afford to fund its war on Ukraine for several more years, according to economists, because of massive oil revenue and Western sanctions failures, particularly the oil price cap put in place by the Group of Seven Nations, which has failed to squeeze Russia's oil income. The economy is overheating partly because of President Vladimir Putin's need to replace the 20,000 soldiers killed or wounded monthly, according to losses reported by the Institute for the Study of War in June. Russian regional governors are paying unheard-of sign-up bonuses to attract soldiers, with Belgorod recently breaking the record with a $31,200 bonus. The result is nearly full employment in Russia and skyrocketing wages. The economy's labor force and production capacity were almost exhausted, warned Central Bank Governor Elvira Nabiullina, who has done more than almost anyone else in the Russian government to sustain the war through her stewardship of the economy in July. This is actually a scenario of stagflation that could only be stopped by way of a deep recession. She announced a sustained period of high interest rates to try to slow the economy and reduce inflation, but so far it has not worked. In a sign of the continued seriousness of the problem, the bank on Friday raised its key interest rate from 19% to 21%, the highest level in more than 2 decades, exceeding the 20% most analysts had expected. Inflation was significantly higher than forecast in July, the bank said in a statement. The bank has forecast growth of 3.5% to 4% in 2024. Then a drastic shrinking to between 0.5% and 1.5% in the next year. The central bank's rate rise has angered some of the nation's top oligarchs, with one powerful figure recently warning that manufacturers would go bankrupt in a sign of the elite tensions on containing the pressures in Putin's war economy. Private companies can barely compete with the high military wages. A survey by the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs this month found that 82.8% of firms were having difficulties attracting workers. Unemployment sank to 2.4% in June, according to Rosstat, the state statistical agency. Russia's real wages grew 12.9% year-on-year during the first 6 months of 2024, according to Rosstat, although independent analysts have questioned its figures. Incomes for the poorest workers grew fastest, spiking by 67%, reported the independent Russian outlet The Bell in March. In Siberia, there are not enough men to drive the buses, with routes being shut down, long queues or buses that never arrive, because drivers can earn twice as much in the military. Sergei Kuznetsov, head of the small Siberian city of Novokuznetsk, proposed setting up a women's battalion of bus drivers because of the staff shortages. In the past, Russia filled low-income jobs with Central Asian migrants, but after a group of Tajiks were implicated in the March terrorist attack on the Crocus City Hall shopping mall, it deported tens of thousands of Central Asian migrant workers and denied entry to another 143,000 during the first half of the year. Many migrant workers have also been rounded up and sent to war, according to Russian independent media, making it an increasingly unattractive destination for work. Putin's economic priorities were spelled in Russia's recent budget, with military and security spending set to reach $142 billion in 2025, 40% of budget spending or more than 8% of gross domestic product, and will remain high in 2026 and 2027, a sign of his determination to fight on. But the massive spending will further fuel inflation, and Nabiullina on Friday conceded the bank would miss its 4% inflation target for 2025 and would only reach it in 2026. Some independent analysts say that real inflation is running even higher than official statistics claim. A report last month by the Stockholm Institute of Transformational Economics doubted the credibility of recent official inflation figures, noting that the main economic indicators were now part of Russian war propaganda. Russian forces have raised their flag in the center of Bohoyavlenka, north of Vuhledar. This marks a significant advance. In recent days, Russia started an offensive in the Shakhtarsk-Novokrainka-Bohoyavlenka sector. Russian forces continue their advance in Donbass, making small gains, but at a tremendous cost. The battlefield is littered with heavy casualties as Ukrainian defenders fiercely resist. Despite Russia's push, progress remains slow, with each kilometer gained costing hundreds of soldiers and significant equipment losses. The advance is proving far more costly than expected, raising questions about how long Russia can sustain this brutal offensive. Canada has delivered a batch of LAV 6.0 ACSV armored personnel carriers to Ukraine. In September 2023, Canada promised to send 50 of these APCs over 3 years. The first vehicles arrived in Germany in June 2024 for training Ukrainian crews. Details on the number of vehicles delivered today are still unknown. Zelensky about Russian attacks this week. Russia does not stop in its terror against Ukraine. Daily aggression against our people, our cities, and villages. Strikes with various types of weapons. Over 1,100 guided aerial bombs, more than 560 attack drones, and about 20 missiles of various types were used by the occupiers against our country this week. I thank our people who work every day and night to protect Ukrainians from Russian attacks. They provide assistance and always protect lives. We are working hard with our partners to stop the enemy, to strengthen Ukraine, and to give maximum protection to our people so that this Russian terror is impossible, said Zelensky. And more info about the latest Israeli strike on Iran. Israel's strike crippled Iran's missile production capability, reports Axios. Yesterday, Israel hit 12 planetary mixers used to produce solid fuel for long-range ballistic missiles, which make up the bulk of Iran's missile arsenal. As a result of the attack, 4 S-300 air defense batteries were also destroyed. Israel sources said the mixers are highly sophisticated equipment Iran cannot produce on its own and must purchase from China. Their remanufacturing could take at least a year. The sources also said the Israeli Air Force attacked a factory for the production of drones. There has been evidence that Iran supplies or plans to supply its ballistic missiles to Russia for strikes on Ukraine.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.